Hello, welcome to the Myth-Busting Neurodiverse Relationships podcast. I'm Natalie Roberts and I'm here with my co-host, Heather Parks. We've both been in our neurodiverse relationships and families for more than 25 years. We met 10 years ago when we were feeling really desperate and trying to solve a lot of issues in our relationship and our families. We've been journeying since then. We've found many more positive and hopeful ways to solve, resolve, repair, reconnect in those relationships and in our families, in our lives. And we now co-host also Loving Difference online, giving hope and a way forward for neurodiverse relationships. In this podcast, though, we're busting the myths about neurodiverse relationships, which we had when we started this journey, that we've realised aren't true, and that actually were preventing us from recovering and having the relationships with our partners and children that we wanted. So we want to dispel these myths and bring you hope that absolutely things can change. So whether you're out and about or comfy with a cuppa, let's dive into our next conversation. See you there.
Let's hope we can.
Yes,
Welcome,
we remember
everybody, to our 9-year friendship anniversary. Really lovely for you.
Congratulations, Heather.
Congratulations, you put up with me for 9 years.
I know it's been a chore, but
You've survived it. You've survived it.
We've survived it. You've been
so cheers to that. Anyway, cheers.
Oh. Did you find some Baileys in the end?
I did. The very dregs of a bottle that was just lying around. How on earth I had any Baileys in a bottle? I think it was. I just thought it was in the recycling, but there was some left in it.
You're so funny. It's so good to see all of you. We're really excited to be able to just share this moment. I think I just kind of clocked it a week or so ago that it was coming up, and it just seemed too good a moment to pass over, to be able to kind of just hop on and share something of our story with you, because it's really been such a just a thrilling ride. I think, I don't know that we would have described it as that at the beginning at all.
Not all of it, no.
And maybe I'm sure we'll go back and talk about some of that. But in terms of the whole thing, it's just been totally bonkers and incredible. So I'm massively grateful for us happening to meet when we did, and then sticking with it. It's just been fantastic. Thank you for all your messages in the chat. It's really lovely to see them popping up.
And one of the things that it was an absolute total fluke that we met, wasn't it? Because we met on a course, but I actually wasn't due to go on the same course at the same time as you, was I? So I have no idea how I even managed to do it, because I got a last minute cancellation, and
I know
that would have been no way. I can't do that. I can't do that at short notice. I can't. But I was so desperate. I was like, I just have to go. I have to go. This is like good. I don't have to wait any longer. I need to know. So somehow I managed to square it home. I mean, God knows how.
Well, you lied about where you were going. That's how you got there for one.
I did. So the course was for partners of people it was for us in neurodiverse relationships, wasn't it?
Yes.
But actually, my way of going, that felt too difficult to share that. That felt too hard.
I think it's really important.
I was doing that.
I couldn't. It's really important.
I didn't have any safety in communication to start saying that's what I was doing. So the only reason I kind of got allowed to go, or felt able to go, was because I said it was about our children. So I said it was a parenting thing. And I was trying to remember whether I've even ever fessed up since. I'm sure I have.
It became a non-thing to say, I think.
No, it's not relevant now.
No, so we have some questions. If you have questions for us, we'd love you to share in the chat if you have questions. And we've had quite a lot of questions come in as well. So we've got a list of questions, and we're probably gonna go for an hour max. If you need to, Heather and I could talk for hours, but we're gonna go for an hour. And if you need to go before that's fine. We will have a replay, so you can watch later. But if you've got questions, we'll try to prioritize the questions for those that are here live, because we're so grateful for you for showing up. And then we'll work our way through questions, and we'll get to where we get to. I think that's probably the plan. And when we were looking at the list before we chatted, we know that we could talk on any one of these for that time. So we are going to try and do our best to just share a little of our thoughts on them, and then try to say to each other, next question, so that we keep going.
And also, Natalie's not got much of a voice left. So as you can hear, we can't talk too long, otherwise she won't have any left for tomorrow.
I know, I'm a bit croaky. I know. Okay, so the first question is actually a bit more historical. What did you both do before being Loving Difference coaches? So what was our life before all of this and all of us, like our journey together? Heather, do you want to share just like a minute of what life was for the first 40 years of our life before we've done the last 9?
Oh, blimey, I didn't know we were going that far back. Not that far back. My life before meeting really Natalie, or at the time I was meeting Natalie, was a car crash, I would say. I was juggling working at a local not-for-profit organisation which supported families. We worked with schools and the Senkos and the head teachers to try and provide family support for all the parents of 12 local schools. So that's what I did. I was also running the support group for parents of neurodivergent children. And from there, I also was starting to do one-to-one family work with them. And I had 4 children at home, one of which was just about coming out of a really bad bout of OCD, which we're now revisiting now. And yeah, we had some massive challenges at home. I mean, hence I was able to disguise my trip away as looking for solutions for our children, because we really needed them at that point. So that was a very believable story. So that's what I was doing. And I was working actually about 30 hours a week and had 4 children. And I now, knowing what I know about my nervous system and my body and my immune system, I'm just like bonkers woman. That was never good for me. That really wasn't good for me. So no. One of my, part of my story is, as some of you will know, is that at some point, about maybe 3 years into that job at that level of things, with so many going on, I was actually really in burnout, and I was off sick for about 10 months, I think. So I've done that kind of journey as well. So lots of different things going on, but supporting families one-to-one and in group situations.
Yeah.
Right, you.
So I was working as a project manager. So I came from a corporate background, which I'd been in for 15 years before I met Heather, and I'd been working about 30 hours a week, including a couple of days commuting up to London. It all does sound completely mad now. But that's what I was doing. And 3 children, step family. So I'm stepmom to Sam, who's now 33. So lots and lots of things navigating that. Issues at school with the kids were starting. A lot going on. And Pete and I in our cycles of round and round, which ultimately then led us to have some like collision of life courses to be at this same course in Coventry in the UK, and meeting at that course, which was a couple of day course, and with about 12 of us, I think. And so in terms of how we then met or carried on from there, typically I guess most people go on a course and then you go home. and we did do that, but we shared WhatsApp and email addresses at the end of that couple of days, which again, I've done that in the past as well before, and not really anything has really happened from that. But this time, I don't know, there was something different about it. And so we started WhatsApp I know we were just emailing to start with. I think it was one of those, we didn't really even have like WhatsApp and things, I don't think. So we were emailing backwards and forwards, about 7 or 8 of us from that group, and just really finding it helpful to stay in touch with how we were after that course. That was in November, so that was obviously this time of year. And then Christmas, I massively declined. So I had definitely gone to that course hoping and expecting for very clear strategies and answers that I could go home, do, and probably within hopefully about a week, everything would be fine.
Oh, I just went for a magic wand. I didn't even go for, I didn't.
Of course we did.
Magic wand.
And that didn't happen. And if anything, we were given information at that course that was not hopeful and left us with more questions than answers. And my well-being, my mental health just floored. And at Christmas, I was in the worst state I've ever been. Well, actually, it probably got worse for the next few months. And one of the things that I realised I needed to do was meet up with the people that I just thought, let's meet up. Like, this is like, let's get together. We were in very different parts of the country. Some were North England, Heather's down in the southwest of England, one's in the Netherlands, one's in Ireland, and a couple of other places in. So we were very spread out, but we made a pact to get together in the March and just I booked a house somewhere where we could get together, and we spent 2 nights away and just basically talked the whole time, and kind of forged our group friendship at that time through that communication together and just supporting each other in where we were at with everything, and then having this weekend away for a couple of nights, which we then, for whatever reason, carried on doing, which I think even now when we as friends talk about it, we all go, other people say, who are these friends of yours? And we all go, oh, we met on a course. And they're like, I go on courses all the time, and we don't go away with them afterwards, but for whatever reason something was different, and we did, and that was what I think
so significant though, wasn't it? It was so significant. So the advice had been to go the night before in the course, wasn't it? But I couldn't do that because I just
oh yeah, that's right, yeah.
I actually got up at like 4 o'clock in the morning to get to that course rather than have to say that I'm going to be away for 2 nights. But I think there was something about just meeting people and having a lot of oh, you too, you know, that's how it is for me. It was so kind of like validating, wasn't it? I think there was and we were just really wanted more of that. I mean, that's not to say that before March, when we were due to go away, I wasn't really questioning myself. I was like, I'm about to go away and share rooms with like people that I've just met for like one evening of chat, really. It did seem a bit bonkers, didn't it?
It did seem very bonkers, and we also, I know many of us found it difficult to say what we were doing. I found it a lot of guilt to go away and leave my kids in what was going on at home. A lot of us didn't really have a lot of financial autonomy, so we had to do something that was very, very low cost, because we didn't have partners that would approve or understand or contribute to what was going on. It was really, really massive what we managed to achieve, I think, just to go away. So anyway, we kind of did that, and then that came we then had a group of chatting after that, and we did just manage to go away once or twice a year, particularly at Christmas. That sort of became a thing, and mainly just chatting between to support each other. It's a support group. That's the main thing, and then so that just carried on, really. Maybe we could share a couple of the highlights of that, and then I think things changed again in 2020 in lockdown. So that's kind of those 6 years of doing that. I think just made a huge difference. Certainly for me, it made all the difference to what was happening, and I don't know how it would have gone for me to be trying to do all of what we've done without that level of peer support, like actually alongside other people. So I think professional support and stuff is all one thing, but we were also finding that a lot of the groups that we were hanging out in were not helpful and quite toxic and not very they just didn't have much hope. And I think that was particularly frustrating for us. So I was very grateful that we did have another group of us who were finding some ways and supporting each other in a much more positive way. So that was really helpful.
And I'd probably just add to that, though, because we weren't that saintly, were we? I would have to say that there's, you know, if I think back, we were quite judgy when we first got there. There was a lot of, you know, we did do a lot of talk about our partners, and, you know, all of that, all the stuff that we were going, oh, do we really do that? We did a lot of that moaning, didn't we? Yeah. And it was the journey was that, you know, at some time we kind of like ended up going, I'm not sure I want to hear any more about your partner. But what actually are you doing? But probably for the first 2 or 3 meetups was a lot of talk about our others, wasn't it?
Yeah, and we didn't. I don't think we had. I mean, we weren't going away so that often. So these were our prime times to actually talk about things. But and we didn't have Zoom and all that between, guys. So we weren't doing that in between. It was just really messaging. And I think also, though, we hadn't really found many ways. So it was much slower for us finding what we needed to do. It took me 2 years to just feel half well again. So I think that it was been a slower burn for us. And I think I think if we'd found some of the ways and understood about moving forward in a healthier way, I think we'd have ditched that more quickly, probably.
I think so.
So I'm grateful for that. But I remember that conversation with people probably around. You probably lit a really amazing fire because Heather's queen of fires, and you probably had made some amazing cocktail of some kind that we had at some different cocktail every meetup, and we would have sat around and gone, God, this is getting a bit boring, this, you know, just talking about them. Should we actually figure out what we're doing? And I think that made such a massive difference. And to get away, we just realised that we needed to have fun again. I think that was massive. If my memories of all our times of meeting up the gang and doing really quite crazy stuff. I mean, we're more sedate these days. It felt like we were sort of teenagers, like let out or something, and doing quite bonkers things just to remember who we were and have fun and laugh and dance and listen to music and things, and even just have what we needed on a Christmas day, for example. The first Christmas we all made, do you remember this, Heather? We all said one thing that we want to do at Christmas that we couldn't do at home for whatever reason, and that we would do all those 7 things in that weekend, because so that we'd all had the chance to do the thing that we couldn't do at home because of all sorts of differences and anxieties and all sorts of things that we have different ways for now. But we didn't have that then. So we had this amazing Christmas where we could each say, somebody just wanted to be able to put Christmas paper on the floor, for example, and we just said, we could have that. But in their house, that didn't work. That wasn't okay. And I think mine was, I want to just wear pajamas all day, because there are reasons why that didn't work and I didn't do that. And all sorts of, they sound really bit crazy things because we knew that. And but it was really lovely that we could just create an environment where we could be ourselves and remember who we were, and start to remember what was important to us, and get more confident together to make changes that we realised we needed to make, and figure out the things that we'd realised we were doing that weren't good for us and weren't good for our relationship or our family. So that was kind of the thing. I think we just kept thinking, what do we want to do? And what other highlights do you remember? And then we'll go on to some of these other questions. What's your kind of highlights, Heather?
I very much. I think one of my favourites was when we went over to Ireland, and that that was massive for me, because to go abroad without my family, and we had free accommodation over there because one of our friends lives over there, so it wasn't actually a more expensive one, was it? But it was just the kind of it felt bigger that I was going somewhere kind of, you know, on a plane. And I remember, and we were going for a bit longer, weren't we? Because we.
It was the first. No, we added an extra night. That was really hard.
Night, didn't we? And I remember. I mean, my young people were phoning me right up. I mean, I'd been up all night trying to prep all their meals because, couldn't possibly expect anyone to pick up any of my jobs while I'm away. So I had to get all of that done first. I was literally getting on the plane, still with my son kind of, in my ear.
We were at the gate. I remember being at the gate, literally getting on the plane, and you were on the phone to tell somebody where the pasta was in the fridge. I remember that.
Yeah.
I know. It was.
But we did get there. But do you remember that
home
one
from away?
Yeah, so that was really tough to do, but I mean, we really partied there, didn't we? And it was beautiful weather, wasn't it? And we were like dancing in the moonlight outside. I mean, bonkers stuff.
Yeah,
definitely. Also with things that weren't allowed, with loud music and ice cream.
All things that we just knew we couldn't do in just normal life.
Silly things, wasn't it? I mean, we went. Do you remember? We didn't have pudding at a pub, and we stopped at a supermarket. Decided we were all going to have ice cream sundaes, and we must have spent about I don't know how much money, a ridiculous amount of money on
we bought a bottle of Baileys.
We did have Baileys on our ice cream
then sundaes. We had like an ice cream buffet, and we put out all the things, and we made our own individual ice creams, and it was wild. It kind of felt
was the start of our well-being cocktail, our ingredients.
It totally was
our ice cream sundaes.
It totally was. Yeah,
it was
totally was.
It
was amazing.
That was a really fun one. But we did, crazy things down in like Jeps Creek, didn't we? And it was snowing, and we had hot tub there, didn't we? That was really fun. And cowboy.
Yeah, and I taught you how to line dance.
Cowboy parties, line dancing. But I mean, now actually we're very, very boring now, aren't we? When we go,
that's what I mean.
We're usually really tired.
I know. Okay, let's move on to another question. I
want to talk about
what have we got? We could talk for an hour about
who made them.
Go on, you do one.
No, you read it.
I was going to do how's your friendship supported your journeys? What difference has it made? And how has it inspired Loving Difference?
Oh, totally. So I think the main thing is we realized that even when we went off and got our own kind of professional support, it wasn't ever enough. So if we hadn't had each other in the in-between time, so this is where Loving Difference was inspired from, is the fact that you can go and see somebody, and the second, you're all like, oh yeah, I've got all this sorted out. I've got it all, I've done it. And then you walk out the door and it all evaporates, doesn't it? And then you don't see them for another week or a fortnight or whatever. And it's like, then you go back and you have to kind of start again because you never really got anywhere from the last time. And I was like, this isn't actually working. So if we hadn't have had each other kind of going, oh, but did you try this? Or what about that? Or I know that really sucks. Or, all of those things in between. And we were like, no, it is. We needed to be doing this stuff together. It was the fact that we were all trying to focus on ourselves and to find healthier ways to relate and to find new ways. And we were all doing it together, and we could all share our progress, celebrate each other's progress, and get ideas as well. So we were it was a little bit like sharing therapists, wasn't it? So yours one said, I remember the lorry thing. I liked the lorry thing. I haven't shared that with
lorry language.
Didn't
work very long.
No,
that didn't stick.
No, it didn't.
But it worked a little bit.
No, and we've got better ways now, so we don't need any of that stuff anyway. But they were good to kind of bounce ideas off each other and to just encourage each other when we were really feeling down, when we were just having really rubbish days, to be going, just have someone going, I'm having a really rubbish day, none of this is working, everything's worse, and I'm in the bottom of the pit.
Yeah. And I think it's also because just because we were in it. It's the same stuff. So even I saw a couple of therapists for different reasons, but they were not in it. They were not living it. They were not in the same. They just weren't in it. So they would give me suggestions from whatever they've been learning and everything, but they've not used those themselves. So they didn't work for us, and I just think it was not the same as being in communication with and having support from people that could just say, I know. And we didn't actually have to explain anything because we do just understand. And I think that's the beauty of Loving Difference, and why, we share very differently here and focus on your experience and stuff, because you don't actually need to share the rest of it, because we know what's going on behind the, sort of like the Instagram picture or whatever. We know because we've been in all of that, and we don't need to it's just, we just realized that was what made the difference, was that we were all living it every day. I mean, daily the relentlessness of it. Some when it was really bad, it was relentless, and it just helped to be able to get on and share with each other what that was, and then, as you said, celebrate. And definitely think that for me, in terms of just recovering yourself and recovering your mental and emotional health, which from all areas of it, social well-being, spiritual, all of that, mine just flawed, building yourself back up with those, I think does need some of the more therapeutic and kind of doing the work kind of stuff. But it really, the best medicine for me has been fun, laughing, joy, and finding that in life. And that is a massive medicine as well, not to be underestimated at all. So I think that's what our group kind of gave us a lot of, which was just magic. That was magic.
Definitely.
Okay, next question. How do you make the friendship work when you live so far from each other? How do you social together now? How do you make the friendship work, Heather?
We just do loads of different. We've got our WhatsApp group with our wider circle, haven't we? But we obviously also will message outside of that, and we'll go for a walk together, just put our AirPods in and do that, or we'll have a chat when we're doing other things, making the dinner, although I can be quite noisy chopping, can't I? And it's like what are you doing?
I'm not very good at multitasking. Like
maybe making dinner doesn't work so well.
No, my family complain about that. They whenever I do that, they tend to get dinner missing something. So I stop doing
you do get a bit distracted. It does. Yes, it's not ideal, but we just find ways or times where we can do that, and obviously then we take times, and we've got this brilliant excuse now of like combining work with play, so we can say, well, we're going away to work, so that's totally so that feels like it's so good. Much like, and we do that, but it's brilliant to do it, isn't it? Because we can get into that energy and flow without people having all the normal interruptions that we have at home. So that was also great. But we look after ourselves in that as well, don't we? And we don't we do sometimes go a bit bonkers, but work-wise, but we also try and make sure we go for walks and look after ourselves and eat well and drink water and all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I think all of that's absolutely right. I think, and I think we have a phrase which I've used for quite a long time with most of my friends are not local. I mean, I have in the past had a group of friends, and I'm still fairly good friends with some of them locally where I live. But my life has changed really significantly, and I've changed. So my friendships have also changed. So most of my closest friends now are a long way from me, so I came up with the phrase to shrink geography. How do we shrink geography on this friendship, on this thing? And that's definitely influenced loving difference. And how do we find ways to shrink geography? So even though we're in different continents, even though we're miles apart, and there's not enough of us, we can't find the people that we would want to be that are in this situation near us. How do we shrink that and feel like we're together? I know there's limits to that because of Zoom and all of those things, but we do our best for it to feel like we're we're around the corner from each other or across the table from you now, like that. And some of that's just me thinking. I'm just imagining that we are across the table from one another, sharing our stories, and I think it works, but some of it you've got to kind of enter into the imagination of it a bit, I think. But how fantastic that we can find each other and find some ways to do that. I mean, we leave quite a lot with voice notes as well. I think when you're trying to shrink geography, often our lives are not, they're better aligned now because we are, can you just mute Brenda because she's on another thing. Our lives are more aligned now, even in the last.
Oh, I muted you. Sorry. Well, no, I
can unmute myself.
Right, let's see if I can get this to work. Okay, right.
Oh no, you've done
Sorry
it.
about that.
So, That's all right. What was I saying? Yes. So the biggest thing we find that's harder, so shrinking geography is not so bad, but aligning time, like getting time lined up is the harder thing. So I use voice notes a lot. I use it with clients a lot, leave voice notes, and Heather and I do that quite a lot. So I feel like I'm chatting to people, I'm sending a voice note, and then I look forward to walking and listening to their one back to me. So I kind of feel like I'm walking and doing live with people when they're in my ears, and it doesn't mean they're in my ears at that moment, but or with me at the moment, but I'm listening to them. So that has been, I think that's another wonder of technology for me, is to be able to hear people even if it's not exactly the same time. So I think it's about how we use these features and things to make friendships and life work better. So
I also have to keep the voice note from Natalie that bans me from buying courses. Sometimes I ignore it though.
Oh, do you still have that on your phone? Yes, we like those audio notes. Okay, when and how did Loving Difference start? Just let's remember, we're halfway through apparently, so maybe I can get through these questions.
Oh, get quicker. So, well, I remember very well
when and how.
Phone ringing. I was at Breakthrough with my son in a room, and I just saw that Natalie had phoned me, and I thought, that's exciting. That's better than what I normally do. They've tightened all the rules since I used to be there, and of course, now you wouldn't be allowed your phone there. But at the time, they were a bit more slack. And I was able to answer my phone, step outside, and Natalie's like going, do you want to do this thing? I've got an idea. I had an idea that 3 o'clock this morning, I had an idea and I want you to say yes. And I went, okay, yes. Do you want to do it? Yes. Okay, we'll do that. Good idea.
So this was March 2020. We were about a week into lockdown. And I just woke up when I do tend to have ideas like 3 a.m. And I just was thinking about all the people that wouldn't have the ways that we have. They would be going into lockdown, and I knew I was going to struggle. I knew it was going to be bad because I wouldn't be able to see people or do all the things.
We had to cancel ours, didn't we? We were due to go away, weren't we? We cancelled ours.
Literally that week.
So we were already feeling the loss of that, weren't we? It was like, I haven't had my top up. I haven't had my sparkle top up. What are we going to do?
Yeah.
Oh, what's everyone going to do? How long is this?
What's everyone going to do? And it's going to be horrendous because we knew, and I already had been. So what is that? 2020. So I'd had my business coaching people in neurodiverse relationships already for 2 years, and I already could see how these kinds of situations just magnified all their issues. And I just knew this is going to be horrific for a lot of people. Shame the governments couldn't have seen that, but hey ho. It was going to be bad. I knew it was going to be bad, and so I was just like, how can we do something? And so I just had this random idea: can we just set up some kind of online group or some way to start connecting? Now it didn't. We managed to get off the ground in a week, and we were on Discord, which for some people may not know, Discord is a platform that is used a lot by people who game. And my son Theo was using Discord at the time. I think I went to him and said, look, I want to set this thing up. What should I use? And he's like, use Discord. So we started on there. And, I was hoping that it would just suddenly have floods of people. It didn't. But we had started something. And that was the beginning of Loving Difference. We had 5 coaches at that time. Started off with 5 of us. And we just did what we could really to just start the idea of something going. And then over the last few years we've had various evolutions of it, and I've gone from 5 coaches to 4 coaches to 3 coaches to 2 coaches. We're still in touch with other people, but we're who we are in this moment and what it is. I was just watching a program before this one. Actually, I have to say, no, I wasn't really watching, it was just on about the evolution of vacuum cleaners. All things. Random but there was a thing on there about the Dyson vacuum cleaners. I don't know if you have those in the States. I'm guessing you probably do, but anyway, that's a big thing over here, very expensive. But they asked him how many prototypes, and it took him 5,000 prototypes before he had the actual thing. And I was like, oh Pete, I think we're on about prototype 4,999 with Loving Difference, so I think we're nearly there. So it's been a lot of evolutions, trying lots of things. So that's kind of how we were born, was in lockdown and just wanting to find some ways to connect and do it differently. That's been our passion, really, is to to bring what we had in our group, that sparkle, that very safe, friendly, safe container of fun and positivity, and sitting in what's really difficult and finding the ways together, and trying to bring that to more people so that you could experience it, because it's made such a difference for us. So that's really what's influenced it.
Should we explain as well, should we tell how we what the reception was from our partners on this one then?
Yeah, I was going to explain how your partners reacted to what you were scheming, and then how did they react when you decided to make it a full-blown business based on our own experiences, which obviously includes their experiences too. So how's it gone down with your lot?
Wow, and this is really interesting, and I think I share it in some of the resources a bit. Of course, at the time, so even 3 years ago, I did not have, because it's even really hard to remember what level we had in terms of emotional safety and communication even then. So obviously then we thought we were way further ahead than we were like 9 years ago, but actually I remember being fearful of telling Phil about it, because I didn't have.
I don't think you did for quite a long time.
I didn't tell him to start with. We were just getting on with it, and then I decided I really did need to. But of course, this is like something that might be familiar to you. If you go into a communication and you're not able to stay green and steady, and you haven't figured out all of those triggers, and you're anticipating someone's negative reaction, you don't go into the conversation conveying anything like you meant to convey. So I think my thing looked a bit like this. Let's had this idea, and I think I'm going to do something, and there was nothing about my body language or my voice or my confidence or my whole energy that said anything about this is really important to me. I was just like, I didn't check in. I didn't have any of the tools that I know now around really consenting, getting the right timing for the conversation, getting myself into the right energy, doing the practices first. I didn't have any of that. And I went into the conversation like it was just disastrous. It wasn't at all. Well, it was exactly what I thought it was going to be. Exactly what I thought, because I predicted it. And then therefore the way I went into the conversation made it happen. So I think the exact words, might not be quite this, but it was something about that. Well, that sounds nice. Hardly commercial. And I remember just being so deflated, and just thinking, I really wish I hadn't told you. Now I feel really rubbish. That's just triggering all this stuff about how you don't really believe. Yeah. And I was like, oh, hang on a minute. And it was really, I was like, oh, I did that thing. So instead of falling down a pit like I would have done, I was like, oh, I did that thing, didn't I? Where I didn't do that. I like to do that again. So yes, different now.
Yeah. And how is it now?
Much better. Much better. Yeah. So I think now they just get really, now it's more like, oh, are you working again? Now they're just fed up with it, So, but I can talk about it, and I know what it is, and
that was good.
There's levels of cynicism, I suppose. They're still like, So yes, I gave up, and of course I gave up my paid employment to do this full time, and I felt that had the full support. I think it was a little bit like, we've got to let her get out of the system, otherwise we're never going to have her, because she's working. So let her do that thing, and then maybe we might see her. So it's very different.
But it's different. It's very different support than you had in the beginning. Yeah. So for me, I was obviously I was already in doing my coaching business for a couple of years before that. So Pete was already familiar with that. And arguably, I think for us, work, employment, those kinds of things in our relationship have not been problematic. Those have not been the areas for me that have been problematic. So Pete's an entrepreneur. I realize more and more I'm an entrepreneur, and I come up with crazy ideas. I've come up with 1 million of them in my life. So I'm just hoping that this one really is the one. I think it is. And so I think he's definitely been my biggest supporter in that sense. So that I can't find any issues with that. It's really been fantastic. it's been other areas of life that have been much more challenging. So yeah, on that we're a pretty good team when it comes to supporting each other's fairly bonkers ideas and what happens with them. So I did ask him actually before, because I knew that question, and he said, well, I'm pretty supportive. And I was like, yes, of course, that's fine. So he was just wanted to make sure that I knew that. So it was quite cute. Good. Okay. What else we got? So these are some other questions now, more about our relationships, I guess. How bad was it? How bad has it been? So how do we want to answer this, Heather? Because I think
it's tricky,
there is something important about this, isn't there? Because we know we're 9 years on, and we sit here, don't we? We look like, we would say, flourishing life, we're great. And that, you know, I think that sometimes can be challenging for people to imagine.
I think members see that it wasn't. I think the problem is like human beings, we tend to compare, don't we? So we tend to want to see that, or we tend to do that. Is theirs been really as bad as mine? I'm not going to get to where it must be that theirs was better than mine in the first place. So we get a lot of that, and people, because of the way we encourage people to share, and because of our healthy guidelines around sharing, you don't necessarily get the full extent of how bad every member and our relationships have been or are at the moment. So it's a difficult one. So we were kind of like thinking, oh, how can we answer that without sort of like breaking our own guidelines on it, and and staying true to, you know, the point of that is that we're protecting like children and partners' privacy, and we're passionate about that. But I do think it's really useful perhaps to sort of understand the extent that we do get it, because it honestly has been really dire. I decided that I would share with you that I spent a very, very many, I mean, probably years of just kind of really not being out. I wasn't at the point where I could deal with how to leave. So it wasn't that, but I did just wish that a bus would do the job for me. I've got to be honest. That would have solved everything, and I felt I would have been better off. That or Prince Charming whisked me off and took me to a desert island somewhere, and I never had to deal with it again. I mean, one of the things is like, you know, our natural patterns, both me and my partner, tend to be quite avoidant. So, I mean, you get different, I think where you get differences is where you get different kind of defense mechanisms. So obviously, if you've got two people who tend to go to fight, it can look uglier. And there was that as well. You know, there was really everything. So we've had some difficult times, and I've had difficult times with my children, to be honest, as well. So, but that's kind of probably about as far as I will share.
Yeah. I think for me, the words that I thinking back, I actually do find quite difficult, because I don't really recognise there is a point at which I've kind of left that life and I'm living the life from 2015 or 16 now. And I think I very much, not like in some more unhealthy detached way, but actually put it to one side, and I'm living my life now. And so I have found it difficult, because I don't really recognise myself back there. That the person you see sitting here, and Heather as well, there's no way that we could have done this as the people we are, as the people we were when we met. Absolutely no way that I could have been speaking up, talking like this, any of that. Absolutely not. So it's challenging to do that. But what I remember most of all as you know, wife and mum of young children and children in school was primarily for me just daily relentless stress, and the persistent nature of that, and an awful lot of negativity. I didn't know it was anxiety then, so it sort of feels wrong to say anxious, but it was. We were swimming in it, and everything that came with that. And that was it. Just it made everything at home difficult. Long periods of shutdown. Certainly, I experienced with Pete long periods of shutdown, days at a time, with young children, trying to just keep the thing afloat. Pete was very much focused on providing and working, so that was, he was amazing at that and still is amazing at that. But anxiety of all kinds, communication again, didn't know words for it then, communication anxiety, social anxiety, lots of stuff, and then all my own things that I was bringing, and all the stuff just meant it was a massive soup of stress and upset and resentment and all of those things. Pete and I are not fighters. I put that down when I was a child, and Pete put it down in his 20s, I think, probably because he's more of that, but had learned not to do that. So then he shut down. So it was a lot of disengagement. So that's what I experienced more, was a lot of disengaged, shut down, quiet, and it was very, very lonely. So I think my overriding experience was loneliness and just trying to do the whole thing on myself. So
being pulled in really all directions. I mean, for me, it was like Andrew being pulled in all directions, 4 children, everyone else's needs other than my own, just feeling like there was not enough of me to go around. I was firefighting all the time. I didn't feel like I had the support. I was doing all the school stuff on my own. I was doing all the like EHCP stuff on my own, endless paperwork, meetings, appointments. And I was so resentful. I was just so exhausted. And really, not good.
Yeah. So how long did it take to accept the reality of being in a neurodiverse relationship and understand what that meant? How long did it take to accept that? When did that arrive? I have a specific day where I can remember that, interestingly. So what about,
I think I would describe mine as more as ledges. It's like it was like so there was a level of acceptance that there was neurodiversity. I got to that quite quickly, I think.
Yes.
I don't think I got to a level of acceptance about actually what the reality of that was, and nor did I really have the understanding of what was and what wasn't, and what could change and what couldn't change, or how much I think that course, we did come away, like you say, because I suddenly realized that there was lots of things we were doing, but and there was so much more. So I think there was also like endlessly more and more things, like, I'm doing that again, and that feels like that again, and so there was a really long time, but I think definitely the kind of I know when I went down that pit, because I remember ringing you and saying, like, I'm doing all the right things, and I'm still exhausted, and you said maybe you just need to go to bed. And I think once I recovered from that burnout and started to come back, I think I did things very differently. I think by then we really did have the tools, didn't we? And when I came,
I remember that. I think you were still back. I think you were still pushing a lot of things to try and happen at that point.
I was still I was still trying to make everything work, and I was still trying to get people somewhere, and that was exhausting on top of everything else that I was doing. So I think it was after that time that things started really getting to the point where I was stopping having those like really unhealthy fantasies that something just sorted all out.
I think mine is I remember I did a 3-year course, 14 to 17. I mean, I'm quite good with remembering dates, but so 14, and I can remember there was a date in January, I think it's like 17th January 2017, and I was sat in a room at my course. I know, I can remember sitting there and this feeling just sinking into me of accepting what I was in. And I always say to people, accepting it doesn't mean you like it. Okay, so radical acceptance is not to accept or not to like it necessarily, but it is to accept what you're in. And that's that just became a very different thing to be in. And it wasn't that, so diagnosis or discovering neurodiversity for us was April 2014. And so nearly 10 years. And so this was 2.5 years later. It's quite a long time after. So, and it wasn't that I hadn't accepted things before So I always say acceptance visited first of all. So it kind of knocked on the door, visited, and was there for a while, and then something else pissed me off, or we'd just go down into another hole, or we'd get to a bit of a better place with something, and then it was all wrong again, or the kids would have something where it just felt endless. And I think there was this point where I just was like, okay, already, like this is what it is. And I think my perspective just shifted again after that. And that was when I sort of, that for me, that was like acceptance day or something. But it doesn't, we could have fatalistic acceptance, which is just, it's just nothing I can do and it's hopeless and what's the point? That's another kind of acceptance. But a radical acceptance is really just, okay, I'm going to be in what is, and I'm going to figure out the next thing. So I think that was definitely how long it was for me. It's not a quick thing. I don't think it's a quick thing.
But I think it's Tara Brach who is amazing. I think she says about radical acceptance that it's like putting your heavy rucksack down so that you've got more chance of climbing the mountain. Whereas when you don't have that kind of level of acceptance, it's like you're trying to battle up the mountain with the entire contents of your home and family and children all on your shoulders. So you're fighting all this extra weight all the time. So it's not that you don't still try and get up to the mountain and get things to be better for yourself, but it is putting some of that stuff down. What it is.
Yeah, I'm a bit photographic memory, so I can remember some of the things I wrote that day, and I can remember it was more about accepting who I was with was a big part of it at that point. So I remember thinking, I am with someone who is extremely anxious every single day. I am with someone for whom the whole world feels unsafe. I am with someone whose social capacity is as big as a thimble. I am with, it was some level of recognizing and simply accepting that was who I am with, and now what's next with that, rather than trying to wish it was something else, or and obviously I knew I had all my own stuff as well, so there was a level of accepting who I was and what I could and what I couldn't make happen and what I couldn't do anymore. And that was hard, because we're sorter outers, and we want our family to be well, and we want them to be more than well, and we want them to have a future that doesn't look like this one that we're in. That was our biggest motivation. This whole thing was, we do not want I get emotional just thinking about the idea of that I did not want my kids to have what we went through, and everything out there would suggest that they were going to hit the same thing as us, because if our kids are neurodivergent, okay, so it's hopeless, and it's now hopeless for another generation. What do I tell them? And I was like, I'm not having that. It's not okay. I'm not having it that they would even think about that they would start a relationship and it's going to go in this direction. I'm not okay that that's what they would have as the template at all. So I think that's been, that was both of our drivers, I think, at the beginning, that we had to act. We had to figure out how we would model something else, so that they stood some kind of chance of not being in total despair before they even started life. That's what I felt like was very likely, which I think is our kind of our mission for Loving Difference. Is that's still my mission, is that I want there to be a different story for people. Is that I don't want it to be that you just might survive or kind of like it, or just grin and bear it. What message is that for kids that are learning who the amazingness of their mind and who they are, and but then think that there's no hope for them to have any kind of successful relationship? That just doesn't feel, that's just not right. So we had to figure it out, and we had to then find a way to put it in the world that something else is possible. And that's our raison d'etre, I think, still, really.
And something that still allows them to be themselves. And that's the massive thing, isn't it? Something that allows them and their partners to be themselves. I think the next question is very similar, isn't it? It's about, when did we get to the point where we thought we'd make it through more than survive. I think that the answer is the same at the point where we had radical acceptance and things shifted for us. I'd say it was the same for me.
Yeah, I think for me it would be, so what point did you know you were going to be okay? So that would be, I think, again, around a similar time, I think, early 2017. So 2 years after I hit my lowest low, or I actually remember saying, I feel like I know who I am. And that's obviously, I've done much, much more of that. But I was at a point where I felt like I'm me again and sparkling and found my wellbeing cocktail, and I'm doing it, and I know that I'm going to be okay. And I'd also made a very clear decision that I am not going to go back and do it that way anymore. It was very clear to me that there was no going back. And I think there is a point in this journey, certainly lots of people experience it with us, where I love it when we start hearing people say the things that we said, because you kind of know where they are in the journey then. And I love it when people say, I've realized I'm not going back, because they've recognized, they know what it is to feel like themselves again, and there's no way that they are going to renege on that again. You know, they're not going to abandon that again, or not going to betray themselves again like that. And I think that's really, really powerful. And I remember that time, and so I think that's when I knew I was going to be okay. That wouldn't have been the same point that I knew Pete and I were going to be okay.
Yeah, I was going to say that's very different, isn't it? It wasn't that the relationship would thrive, it was that we would.
No. And that feeling then also gave me significant confidence to know that because I was not going to abandon that again, that I would be able to figure out the next steps in the relationship, because I also knew that I have to find the way that I keep growing. I keep being more of me. It's not. I was not okay with just staying still there either. That wasn't acceptable. I remember Pete saying at one point, "I've got my Natalie back." Like, that was a really significant moment. Was that it was a battle, huge battle. And there were times when he would be saying, "Can we just go back to how it was? Can we go back to before you started changing everything?" I remember that was a conversation, not really a conversation. He was just in bed one night and he just said, "Can we just go back to how it was before?" And I just remember saying, how far do you think we have to go back? And he said, "Well, before you started changing everything, i.e. probably a couple of years before, when I started actually being myself again." And I said, "The thing is, Pete, we wouldn't have to go back 2 years. We'd have to go back 20 or 15 or whatever it was at the time. We'd have to go back to like probably about a year after we met, because that's when I started to not be me." That's how far, and I'm not doing it. So there is only this one now. There's this. So we have to work that out, or I'm going to work it out. And that was a really huge deal, you know. And that's when really Pete's life was becoming intolerable, and what he didn't like, because he was fine for all the time. He wasn't fine. He thought he was fine. But anyway, that's a whole other story.
It was more fine because we were doing all the things that made it okay.
Yeah, but he also wasn't fine. He also wasn't fine at all. But that was huge. I think that was really significant. And then I think it was much more time before I've been able to say, I'm at various points, I'm still in this, but it isn't I have a different thoughts on all of that now, in terms of, I don't think I would sit here and say, I can today, let's just go today, we'll be together forever, it's all good. And I'm comfortable when we're at an edge. I'm good with that, and we've got a question about that, and I'm conscious of the time. We have like 2 minutes. We might have to just do another one another time. But I'm also good, very much more comfortable at edges of our relationship, when things would compromise, but not compromise, we don't use that now, but when it would be out of alignment or out of integrity with me, sufficiently out, and how I navigate that. But I think we'll probably talk about that on another conversation, I think. Yeah. Do you want to pick one to finish off? What do you want to pick to finish off today? And don't worry if we've missed your question. And I know somebody here has got a question, so we will jot that down. I'm going to make sure we write it down, and we will come back to it. So don't fear. I'm just going to try and grab it now, actually.
Do we want
to choose another question?
How we've managed to, because I mean, I don't know if I can do it quickly, but I mean, co-parenting has been challenging.
Oh, I think that's a whole conversation.
Yeah, it is a whole conversation.
What about this one? Let's do a quickie on this. Yeah, well, we could do a whole one on this, but what about our neurotypes, Heather? Are you neurotypical or are you neurodivergent? What are you going to go with today?
Well, one of the interesting things about, having 11 differences, like quite a lot of people come in thinking they're one thing and then actually shifting quite significantly. So don't be surprised if that happens to you, because it certainly happened to us. So that was around our whole identity, is assuming that we were neurotypical, but now jury's really out, because we definitely don't have those kind of brains. And now we're swimming in what we've got in my family is probably 50-50 of no one being neurotypical and something that looks something like some kind of, I don't like the term, so we haven't really labelled ourselves it, but some kind of attention bonkersness. Is that a thing? Attention bonkersness?
We can have whatever words we like.
I mean, I have what my family like kindly say. They say she's not. You're not in a beam. If I'm not in the beam,
you're not in a beam.
I'm not in the beam. So, I can I totally hyper focus on one thing, or I'm like all over the place and nobody can, everyone's like, what? So yes, I definitely have not got a brain that I would now view as whatever neurotypical is, if that even is such a thing. We were really hoping that in some days, I was actually, my friend asking me this yesterday, we had this conversation after, I don't know, maybe one too many wines, around this and about what I thought about labels. And it's like, I just said I think they're really useful for now, for where we are in society, because I think people need to kind of they need that to help understand themselves at the moment. They need that to find their kin or to get a sense of belonging. It's really useful, and I really, really hope that someday we don't need them anymore, because we'll all just be okay with what we need, prefer, like, tolerate, and what other people need, like, want, tolerate, prefer. It's fine. Wouldn't that be lovely? That we wouldn't need any of these things, and we wouldn't all have these boxes, because I don't think anyone really fits in these boxes, and the boxes keep getting smaller, keep having to create more boxes
or bigger
so that everyone can fit.
They get smaller, or they add more things in, which is just kind of just covering all bases. I don't know, it's very complicated. For me, definitely identified as neurotypical as soon as possible, I think, afterwards, after we arrived in things, because I was very clear where the problem was, and that was over there with P, and let's say all the problem is the neurodiversity. That was what I was deciding, and then obviously travelled things with my kids and everything, but yeah, started to get more curious about that, and I guess same sort of read more about ADHD and things like that, and I mean, I have a whole article somewhere in the network under Coach Stories, probably, where you could go read more about it, but I found it very difficult to put down a label that I'd had for myself, partly because I had a business framed around it, so that made things feel more complicated, but it hasn't. But yeah, so now I identify as neuroqueer on the basis that I live beyond labels and prefer to be work-led, just trying to, just not any of these boxes, really. I don't think if I went for any formal things, I don't think I'd tick enough boxes, partly because I think I'm myself. I think a lot of the ways that these things are assessed are very much based on deficits, challenges, and what you can't do. And I definitely know that as a family, having designed now life to actually work for us and for us to find consonance, which is our definition of thriving, which would be that thriving would be like harmony, would be where everyone's needs, preferences, tolerances, limits, aspirations and values are met. There's no compromise to that. It's figuring out what is the relationship, the family circumstances, the home situation where all of these things are met. What we have found is that we live pretty much beyond labels, which is one of our landmarks in Revival Retreat. In the beginning, we didn't talk about anything other than autism, literally day and night, every mealtime for about at least a year. I mean, we drowned ourselves in it. now we just know each other just so much better, and we don't have any need to be using that language. We just talk about who we are, and continue to explore that. I continue to explore it. I was very careful of saying we, because it would sound like as a family we're all doing something together. I'm still doing that, and I believe as a family we do that in some form together. But yeah, much more curious and interested. So just for all of you as well, like I'm passionate about that, and just want all of you to know more and more of who you are, bring more and more of you to life. And if labels or things like that are helpful to you, that's fine. I often like to think that at a point in time, because often we've been labelled by others, there's all sorts of other labels we've had put on us in life, to be fair, all of us, and we're very much in the business of helping you take those off, or at least look at them and decide if you want them, and decide who you are, and then name yourself. You get to choose, like we're like, choose who you are, to find out who that is, and then you tell us, let us in and tell us and show us who you are, rather than the other way around. It's not for us to say. So you use some ways that we have, go find it out and come and tell us, because we will love to know that and be excited for that. And if a label or if any of that language is helpful to you, to be able to identify as that is super important and helpful. And then we want to support you to express that to the max. I think that's huge here. It's the biggest part of this journey in the beginning is self-identity, exploring every angle of that, not just your neuroidentity, but exploring who you are, what makes that up, what is all of those things, and then how can we support you to express that outside of yourself, in the world, with your family, in words, in whatever ways, so that you are bringing you to life more and more every day. That's it. And if some of the language around this is helpful, it's helped me to use neuroqueer as language and move away from neurotypical. And when we met, we were most certainly neurotypical. That's what we learned everything as. We definitely identified with Cassandra syndrome, which typically, but not so much now, has been traditionally associated with a particular neurotypical neurotype. But what does that mean then? Then we say we weren't neurotypical, we didn't have Cassandra syndrome. Like, you have to start reassessing some of these things, and that's kind of what we've done. And then we bring some of those ideas to you, and you choose what works for you. Okay, shall we leave it there for tonight?
I think we might have to, as much as we could keep going for like another hour. I think we should.
I know. Well, let's promise to schedule another one so that we can do more of these questions, and then if others have some, we can maybe do some more.
Yeah.
And maybe just let us know if this has been helpful as well, because we can rabbit on all day. Maybe it's not what everybody wants, but
well, we definitely had better do it on our friendship anniversary now anyway.
You can make
that a regular one.
Okay, right, so I think we better go. Lovely to see all of you, whether you've been on camera or not on camera. It's been lovely to have your company this evening. I can feel my voice starting to wane a little, so I'm gonna go. Yeah, lovely to see you, Heather. Heather and I are doing our pre-Christmas in a 9 sleeps, Heather? 10 sleeps.
I don't think it's that many.
Oh, I think it's less than that. See, our maths is really bad. How are we doing a business together?
Week tomorrow. It's a week tomorrow, isn't it?
A week tomorrow, yes, that's just it. I'll see you a week tomorrow for our
I will see you a week tomorrow,
and
I'll see you tomorrow morning for a walk.
I'll see you tomorrow for a virtual walk, and then HQ, Revival Retreat HQ tomorrow. If you're in the retreat, we will see you for firesides in the next few days.
Yes.
It's been so good to see you. Can't wait to see you. And if you're catching us on the replay and you have more questions, pop them underneath the replay or DM us. If you're interested in joining us in the retreat, obviously ask us whatever questions you have. Come find us. It'd be lovely to see you and do more of this together. As we say, we just like doing life together for a while. So come find us and see you good.
Take care.
Lots of love.
Good rest of your days and see you soon.
Yeah, bye.
If this episode has resonated with you, subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening or watching to get notifications of future episodes. To dive deeper into all of this with professional coaching, resources, and all the support you need, join us in Love Indifference via www.loveindifference.net. And we'll be back here soon.